Right, hello and welcome to a guide for Dark and Darker. First time we're doing a guide for anything, but I've been playing a lot of Cleric lately, and I think I've just about got the general loop of it down pretty much to a T at this point. I've nearly reached max rank on this playtest. I've reached max rank. I think I didn't manage it over Christmas, because obviously it was over Christmas, I didn't play it as much. But I've reached it in the... I started playing the second playtest, I got to max rank there, I got to... I think you are in the early teens in the in the third playtest, sorry, which was the second one that I played. And then in the fourth playtest, the third one that I've played. This one, I am just, and you can see, literally, just there, off the level cap. I'll hit it in my next game. So, yeah, interesting one that. So, how to play a cleric. So this is going to be a guide for basically going in with basic gear, nothing else, just your basic starting gear, and trying to do as much as possible with as little as possible to come out and be filthy rich. So, and you know, depending on your luck, depending how what the rules are, the things you find, and how easy you find it, and that you can get out with usually between anywhere between 50 to 100 and a bit gold, usually around there. Again, it depends on drop rates and things, and the circle in particular can be nasty. If you get a bad circle, well, you're gonna have to try and make do with whatever you can get. But hey ho, that's how it rolls in these battle royale type games. Now, first thing you need to do is we need to get you set up properly. So, on your perks and skills, first thing you're going to do. So, if you've just got in as a cleric, you won't have access to all of these, obviously. But I'll run you down the 4 best perks to take for cleric when you're going solo. So, solo, we've got advanced healer. This is a basic one, it's available from the start. Keep in mind your basic heal is 15, so 5 means a 33% increase to all healing that you're going to be giving yourself from your basic heal. Now, your other heals as well are affected. All healing that you do from your actual spells and skills and things are buffed by this, right? So it'll all increase by 5. Which, important to keep in mind with that later on. So we've got protection from evil. Duration of harmful effects is reduced by 50%. In the Goblin caves, this is an absolute must-have. Right? This is amazing. If you're going to the Goblin caves as a solo, you're starting off as a cleric, I wouldn't even say that this is the most important. I would say it's either protection from evil or perseverance. One of those two. Up to you. Play it, see how you find it. Particularly pay attention to which enemies are annoying you most, and pick the perk that is best suited to them. Right? And we'll go over which ones are better against them now as we go through these perks. So protection from evil, why? Why do we want that? Duration of harmful effects. What's harmful effect? Poison. Big time poison. In the dungeon, the goblin caves especially, all the goblins have poison daggers, poison arrows. They do a little bit of damage to you, to the goblins, not much, they don't hit that hard, but the poison damage, about half the damage or so, the poison is responsible for it. If you can negate a large portion of that poison damage, you're taking significantly less damage. Oh, I can heal for 5 extra. Yeah, but just take 5 less damage from the poison. Probably more, actually. It really hits you hard, the poison. So this is probably, in the long run, going to do you more good than this advanced healer. Next one, we've got Blunt Weapon Mastery. Nice and simple one. Blunt Weapon Mastery increases physical attack power by 5% when attacking with a blunt weapon. Blunt weapon, you start off with a mace. This is geared towards your starting gear, so blunt weaponry there. I'm trying to think of an actual non-blunt weapon that the cleric uses, and I honestly can't. I think they are literally they only use blunt weapons. So, just think of this as 5% additional attack. It's only 5%, It's not great, but honestly, the other skills aren't that great either. And lastly, Perseverance. Reduces all types of incoming damage by 3. As I was mentioning, ooh, I can heal for 5 extra. Well, yeah, but if you just take 3 less damage from every time you get hit, this will do you more good in the long run. This is good when you're in a team, because obviously it's not just healing you, it's healing your mates, everyone's getting healed more all the time, yeah? Plus, if you're using something like kindness, when you heal others for 15% of, when you heal others, 15% of the heal comes back to you. Nice for covering up your scrapes and bruises you might get as you go through a dungeon by just being friendly to your teammates. You know, you don't need to waste a heal on yourself if you heal your teammates beforehand, because it will come back for you, that heal. So, but since we're running solo, we don't need that, which means the nice little synergy it has with this, well, it's not as important, so something like Perseverance is better. So these two are your must-haves, right? When you're starting out and you can only choose one, this is all you have to ask yourself. Do I hate being poisoned more, or do I hate having to deal with, now this is where this is good, Perseverance, it's 3 damage, it's a set amount, it's not a percentage or anything. So spiders and death beetles especially, which do little bits of damage and little bits of tick damage, Perseverance is very helpful against. Both of these combined actually basically allow you to just tank through death beetles if you need to, you know. You'll see death beetles when you get in the dungeon. They are nasty little critters. They hover up in the dungeon, come down to you, and then they spray you with some nasty acid that slows your movement, opening you up to follow-up attacks, whilst doing a nasty amount of poison damage. Right? They are not good. I absolutely hate the damn things. But between these two effects, because the slow and poison that they put on you only lasts half as long, and then all the damage they do is reduced by 3, they are way easier with both of these active, right? Talking about which enemies you hate more as well, blunt weapon mastery here. Why do we want this? This is, basically it's just 5% versus everything, right? The alternates are, well, you can resurrect people better. We're playing solo, not necessary. We've already been over kindness. Brewmaster, if you're going to run an alcohol build, sure, fine, that's a thing you can do. Look it up on YouTube, I'm sure there's a guide. We're here talking about starting as a cleric. You've got nothing else. You've just got your starting gear. This is what you are probably going to avoid, because you won't have beers. You won't have a keg handy, right? Undead slaying. If you want to go to the castle where there's more undead, by all means, you can do that, and this will be more useful. Most of the enemies in the castle are undead. If you're going in trios into the castle, this is a lifesaver. It's amazing, yeah? But solo in the Goblin caves, are goblins undead? No. Why are you carrying that then? You might as well have the 5% bonus against everything, because there's only a handful of undead in the Goblin cave. There's a couple of zombies that appear at a certain area, and a couple of skeletons, right? Skills-wise, so we're going to obviously take some spell memory, we're going to be casting some spells, and over here we've got on Smite, we've gone with Smite. Other options available are, well, you can either have more spells, but it won't give you more capacity for them, so there's no point. Holy Purification inflicts 100 magic damage to all undead monsters within 7.5 meters, right? Undead monsters, again, very important you read the descriptions. It's got a long cooldown. I think it's like, I can't remember if it's like 45 seconds to a minute. But it's very good in certain situations, most of which you will find in the castle, not in the Goblin caves, right? Very good for clearing out little spider nests though, but that's about all I can really say for Holy Purification in the Goblin caves. Judgment. After focusing magic for half a second, so half second cast time, you deal 35 magic damage to the target, and you reduce their movement speed for 2 seconds. Woo, 2 whole seconds. but you can only cast it when they're within 4.5 meters, right? That they could poke you with a spear at that distance, right? So once it starts casting on the target, you no longer need to be aiming at them, it'll just go. But if they go out of range during this, the casting fails. So it's a rather useless ability. 35 magic damage, to put this into perspective, is like hitting them on the head with a mace. Your starting mace. That's the amount of damage you're dealing. It's one attack. In the time it takes you to cast it, a barbarian will kill you. Because you have to do it within 4.5 meters. They're already at that point. They're already swinging, and you're standing there. You can't move while you cast this. Don't take judgment. It's terrible. Smite just gives you plus 10 magic damage for 7 seconds. Its cooldown is very short. I think it's like 15 seconds or something. It's very short for cooldown. You can basically put this on every fight. There's no cast time. You just have to like stop for a second, press Q, it instantaneously triggers. You're ready to go. Your mace glows so that you know that it's active. Just start bopping them, right? Spells. So, spells. We've got Lesser Heal. Heal a target for 15 health. It casts on yourself if no one is around. Your basic heal, you need this. This is absolutely necessary for any kind of solo dungeon delving. This is the reason why Cleric is, honest to God, one of the best characters to run while solo. And yeah, it's that sustain that they've got. Absolutely amazing sustain they have. They can just, you don't need heals, like you don't need health pots or bandages. You can start out the game as a Cleric and you can absolutely 100%, like you don't need to go and get heals or anything. You go into that first dungeon and you're not scrambling around like, oh no, I've been hit and I'm dying. No, you just stitch yourself back together. Glorious. On that note, now normally you would run Holy Light. Heals an ally for 30 HP, does 100 base magic damage to an undead target. So, yeah, it's got an offense ability as well, but only to undead. There's only a few of those in the Goblin Caves. It's not that great. We're instead going to take Sanctuary. Creates a area for a certain period of time, healing friendly beings within the area by 5 per second and dealing 14 spell damage to undead per second. So, very nice, very handy. I wouldn't use it offensively. This has a long casting time, and that spell damage is not much. Per second, 14. Remember, 30 or so is about a hit from the mace on the head. 14, so it's like, okay, maybe after like, I don't know, the entire duration of it, it might kill something. Meanwhile, you're stood there channeling while getting stabbed. Yeah, sure, you're healing for a bit, but they're gonna hit you for way more than that. But keep in mind as well, why I said we want to bring that healing perk, this 5, extra 5. Each tick of this, as far as I'm aware, will now be healing for an additional 5. Sanctuary with advanced healing is very good, very powerful, really good combo there. Next, we're going to bring the standard that you typically will bring as a Cleric. I would recommend these for parties and solo. You want protection. It's basically a bubble shield for 20 damage. It lasts for 20 seconds. Divine Strike, increased weapon damage by 10 for 20 seconds. And then we've got Bless. Gives you 3 strength, agility and will for 30 seconds. And that's something as well, when we're looking at clerics and like what stats are good for them, there's a lot here and you're thinking, oh god, this is overwhelming. Strength, HP and physical power. Very useful to have. It makes you better at hitting things on the head and not dying to being hit on the head. So strength's a good one. Now you notice it also increased agility, so that's attack speed and movement, right? Attack and movement speed, very useful to have. Will is buff and debuff durations that you cast, right? It also improves base magic resistance, So the Cleric can buff those 3 stats and basically become, yeah, very powerful briefly. It's a nice bonus. You'll hit hard, you'll have a little bit extra temporary HP from it and that. But more importantly, remember, it does say will, which increases buff duration, so you should always cast this first. When you're looking for gear as a Cleric, I know this guides for once you're in the game and you're wanting to just go from scratch, but say you've had a few games, good skills to go for are usually knowledge and spell capacity, especially if you're going in teams, right? Spell capacity, obviously, you can see each spell here has a cost. These have all been perfectly picked and prioritized to fit in the basic default cost without any modifications to it. So by default you have 12. These fit exactly into 12, right? If you want to increase that, look out for spell capacity or knowledge. Knowledge increases is the base stat that increases spell capacity. So if you increase knowledge or spell capacity, you'll be able to carry better spells. So for example, if I got let's see, 2 knowledge, because you can see Sanctuary here costs 6. Say I got 2 knowledge on one of my items, I could instead take Resurrection while I'm in a party, for example. That could be pretty big. So, something to keep in mind, right? But that's all we need to know. Now we want to see this in action. So I'm just going to pause here. I'm going to roll some B-roll footage of me actually succeeding. So, as you can see, we've got some footage up here. Now, first thing you're going to want to do as a solo, we want to have a look at everyone in the lobby. And apologies, by the way, if it's a little bit choppy, it is the server. While we're doing this, it's very near the end of the test. I've looked at their Discord, apparently they're being, I think, DDoS attacked. The EU and US East server are actually offline while we're trying to record this, and I'm on US West. I'm connected to Oregon, meanwhile I'm here in the UK. So, as we saw there, we saw a few opponents, and if we just roll it back a second, so we've got a wizard, we know there's a barbarian, there's another barbarian there, we've got a ranger, but all of them look to be in starting gear. We don't have to be overly worried. There's no one that we have to be looking out for. Sometimes you might see one fully kitted up, and you think, well, if you hear the clanking of plate metal, maybe just hide for a moment and see what passes by and whether or not you should make any moves, or maybe you should be buffing yourself up. Important thing to remember, you'll see me here, I'll spin around. Sometimes in your starting location there will be chests and things. Some starting locations here, that's the case. Others, there might be enemies nearby, so it's important to keep that in mind. I think I might just quickly as well just turn this down a little bit. It's already very quiet, but a little bit more. Right, so going straight for the loot. We're not aggroed on those enemies, so we can do. And you might as well, because, well, look at that. We've immediately found some gear. We're already better than we were before. So, if the enemies aren't aggroed and you're not in their patrol path, grab the gear. It might be something useful. Might make a difference. Now, the goblins' attack pattern. So, they do an attack. But remember, the enemies will always stay stationary while attacking. So as soon as they swing, they're locked in place. You can just step backwards and avoid the attack. Best way of getting through solo dungeons, just get used to waiting for their swing, baiting it out. And now, as you can see, there's a lot of enemies ahead, so I'm going to apply all my buffs. So we started with Bless, and then we've gone for the others. Then we're going to activate our Q ability. So we've got, keeping in mind, we've got additional strength, divine strike, and smite active all at the same time here. which means we're doing over 20. We're doing 20 bonus magical damage, and we're doing a bit of bonus physical from the strength. I'm telling you, those death beetles are nasty. Bust through a door and everything there. So, since we're quite low on health after that, and I should have probably cast this before I started looting, but I figured that after looting the first one, yeah, I should probably deal with my health first. We've lost a lot of health. Sanctuary, as you can see, is basically a full heal. But as you can see, you have to be standing still while you cast it, and the moment I move, it cancels. So you don't have to wait for the whole duration. The moment that you're fully healed, just start moving, you'll cancel it. You don't have to hold the button down or anything, just charge it up, hold it down, charge it up, let go, you'll start casting, but again, don't move then. Now, all that loot there is basically lost here. I'm noticing at this point, while we've been dealing with all of this, the circle has closed on us. So, time to move. There's a dead rogue there. Oh, and I'm just noticing as well, even though I tried to quickly flick streamer mode on at the start, it seems to have kept everyone's names, so I guess I didn't do it quite quickly enough. It must not work once you're already in the lobby. But as you can see now, so we know we're going against a tough opponent here. We've got a Goblin Shaman coming up against us. So we're going to apply our buffs. And it looks like the rogue had already done a bit of a number on him. Got some plate boots. We're not going to stay standing around equipping them or anything at the moment, because we need to get in there while our buffs are applied. As you can see, that shaman just hit me. It does hit pretty hard. It's about a third of my health that it's taken off. A bit more maybe, but that thing would probably kill me in 3. Anyway, we're going to grab the big chest before we go. We're not going to stick around though. There's loads of chests in this room. I think I'll probably bring a map up as well and tell you the knowledge I know of the Goblin caves before we finish here. And now while I've got a moment, I'm just taking a second to kind of manage my inventory. And while I'm still moving, I'm equipping things. If you want to quickly drop something, by the way, shift right click will do the trick. So you can quickly drop items if you need them out of your inventory rather than dragging and dropping those extra, milliseconds it saves you. May matter, likely won't, but you never know. And so we're now just taking a moment to kind of loot up and start moving towards where the next circle will be. So knowing that this next area is already going to be getting devoured by the circle soon, keeping an eye out for the trap there. I'm moving ahead, hoping to avoid the circle if at all possible. If you come across this area and you see these spiders, the pot is actually just there. Now I made a little mistake here, though I think you'll forgive me. So I've killed all the spiders. And since he seems to have glitched out, I apply my smite. I don't risk applying all my buffs though, and I'm crouching to avoid that wall spike behind me. And the moment he's opened up that area between the pots for me, I've gotten out of there because I don't want to be backed against the wall. I need room to manoeuvre. Keeping in mind we can't go too far back, there is that spike trap on the floor as well. If you're feeling brave, by the way, the troll is down there. Just, if you're ever in this area, troll is down there if you're wondering. This area of the map here. So, if you're feeling brave, I think the only way I've seen him defeated so far is basically with cheese tactics. Of like ducking under the attack and just sitting there stabbing him repeatedly in the crotch. Or kiting him around the room while naked as a ranger, firing your arrows at him. It's not really something a cleric is particularly well suited to, and given that the circle's collapsing and I value my life, we're just going to take what we've got here. Going to do a bit of quick looting, and you'll notice as well, seeing as we were basically dead, I've used my other sanctuary. Again, that's why I wanted to bring sanctuary. It is a big full heal basically for us. Now, keep keep in mind, on the top right side of the screen, we can see, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people are dead, and an escape portal has appeared. And you can hear that shifting of stone, so it sounds to me like there's another escape portal nearby. Now, at the time, I was thinking, oh, that sounds like it might be in the next room. Don't get your hopes up. Now, I was actually curious here as to where this wall spike was. And, can you see it? Go on, have a little, I'll give a moment. It's like, where's Wally? You know, where is it? There, can you see it? It's half clipping through the wall. Keeping in mind this was dark, with vases there. This is a nasty little thing. This will get you. And they've put jewellery there on the floor to trick you into just getting stabbed by this thing. Malicious of them, absolutely malicious. But, can't blame me for falling for that one. The thing's barely visible at all. In fact, again, when it's dark and there's all those vases in the way, it basically is invisible. So this area of the map features a couple of goblins attached to a little bit that goes under, so there's like a few tunnels under that connect two areas, like two corridors. So like I'll just kind of explain it while I've got it there. You can go down there and it connects, as you can see on the map down here, these two connections, there's one at either side of this area, connect up to another corridor that runs along the bottom edge of the map. And up here, there's a bunch of goblins that defend a chest, and I think there are at the other side as well. Given that the circle's closing in, though, I just think, well, I've noticed at this point the amount of people dead in the top right. Now, because there's so few people in the solo lobbies, that kill feed doesn't ever get full, as far as I understand it. That kill feed won't be full. So you can always see exactly how many have died. Because usually when it gets full, it deletes the oldest entry and puts the new one in at the bottom. Doesn't happen because it doesn't get full. So knowing that, I'm pretty certain at this point, especially with the lack of sound I can hear, that we're the last ones here. We're either the last ones here, or the other person's in that other tunnel across the other corridor across the way. Now, you can hear that again, shifting stones, and other escape portals appeared. It sounded underground to me, so I get a bit of looting done. But yeah, at this point we're in the last throes of the game, and it is basically time to start looking for a portal. Now, we're looking for some possibly usable gear as well, get some more treasure, but top priority is getting out. So while we do have another moment, you can see in the bottom right here, we've got this little bit of time left, not very long. But they're just swapping out some grey, rubbishy gloves for some common, slightly better ones. Now, the portal can only appear in the white circle, right? 3 portals have appeared at the time of recording. It looks like we've found the final person that we thought we heard earlier as well. But at the time of recording, keep an eye out for that spike trap there are 4 portals that appear. So when the next circle closes, another portal will appear, right? When portals appear, they must appear within the white circle, right? Now, that does not include, so as far as I'm aware, yeah, so as you can see, it's basically there on this edge, this side of that white circle. So it can appear above and below if there's areas above or below. So, keeping in mind where this is, now you can see these little dotted lines that all connect up. That means it could have been here, or it could have, I guess, been in this underground tunnel, which I must admit, I'm trying to think how I would have gotten there. I think I'd have had to go down that corridor, come out up in this area, down here, gone around and gone under, And down that way, it would have been a bit of a trek. I probably would have died. So it can be dicey at the end. But we made it out, and we get a decent bit of gear here. So the gear you saw me in at the beginning was straight after this round. As you can see, so we've got a nice amount of loot actually. Now, things you want to prioritise when you're looting. So you can see that these loot items actually have rarities. Some are white, some are green, and you can see there's a value associated with their rarity. So larger items sell for more, but rarer items are more important. If you see a green ring, it's more important to grab that than it is to grab, say, a goblet or candelabra or whatever. Yeah, yeah. So important to keep these things in mind. Your starting items won't actually sell for anything at the moment. And just for the sake of showing it off, I put my items I've looted there that I'm actually going to use. And you can kind of get an idea that your actual items don't sell for much, right? You are much better off wearing them because you will not get a fair price. If you want a green item, they will charge you about 50 or gold or more. Whereas if you want to sell them one, you're lucky if you get more than 5. It's horrific. But as you can see there, we get 7 gold for a few a few like common non-grey weapons, which isn't bad, but not great. And we just stash it all. But we've got a nice amount of gold there. And again, this is not overly difficult, very repeatable. Tips other than what I've said here, I would say if you see someone who's geared as hell, I would typically try and avoid conflict, though the reward, if you can beat them, is highly likely going to be a big inventory full of loot, assume that they've been going around just absolutely mauling people. If you are going for them, remember to always buff beforehand. Always buff, and, well, unless they're right on top of you and you don't have time, obviously. I would generally, though, always avoid barbarians, at least at the time, again, time of recording, barbarians are currently one of the best classes for 1v1s, and they can, even if you've got your shield up, they'll probably two-shot you with an axe, right? A basic axe, they will two-shot you if you let them, right? Blocking is very inconsistent, and I think even with all your buffs, it'll probably take 3 hits to finish them off. So just keep that in mind, right? Barbarians, I would generally speaking just avoid. Good news though, while you're playing as a cleric, it's one of the best classes for dealing with rogues. If you hate rogues, remember that 50% reduction in harmful effects that makes poison a joke? Yeah, rogues don't like clerics. Rogues hate clerics. Put a bubble shield on top of that, keeping in mind that rogues are basically glass cannons. Yeah. You also have high magic resistance, and they've just now nerfed wizards again. And I imagine going forwards, they're probably not gonna, suddenly decide that clerics need another nerf or anything. So I think clerics are a good option against rogues and wizards. But avoid barbarians. Surprisingly, clerics and barbarians are actually best friends if you're in a trio or a duo, because you can buff the barbarian, he runs in, normally be just taking loads of damage, even though he'd just out DPS everyone. Well, now he can become an unstoppable tank and just kill everything without taking damage. So, anyway, I hope this has helped you in the dungeon. It's definitely been a nice little learning curve for me, getting used to the cleric and things. I've played them a lot in previous playtests, but now trying to figure out how the mechanics should be applied in solo matches. It's been an interesting ride. But this is the most consistent way of getting in and out of the dungeon solo with your starting gear, right? And you can just go from here. Loot prioritization, again, remember rarity. If you're grabbing gear, try and make sure it's either usable or rare. If it's for other classes, don't even grab it if it's less than green. Don't bother. And honestly, green, it's like, grab it if you've not got treasure, but when you find treasure, drop the greens. Yeah, unless it's usable and you intend to use it, drop the green, right? Because you're not going to sell them in the trade chat. The thing's massively oversaturated with people putting on, trying to sell all their blues and purples very cheaply because there's that much competition. No one's going to buy a green, and in the time it takes you to sell a green, you could have done another run and got another 3 greens. You know, no one cares about your green items. Blues, maybe, and you might get like 50 gold for them. Up to 100 and odd if they've got really good stats. I'm talking like +1 all attributes, and it's a really good item, like a primary weapon or a plate chest piece or something. But generally speaking, you need to be selling purples really. So when you're looting gear, assume that it's probably going to sell for absolutely nothing unless it's basically at least a blue. And even then, consider the amount of inventory it's taking up if you start needing room for treasure, because it's unlikely to sell on the trade chat. It'll get like a dozen or so gold selling to a vendor by the time it's a blue, but it's not a load. So, and that's more or less it. But yeah, last thing I will just go through, because I mentioned it earlier. So the map of the actual goblin caves, as you can even see the trail we took. We spawned here, bumped into the goblins guarding these chests here, which was unfortunate that the circle closed on us so quickly. If you actually go around there's a little staircase that takes into an underground area down here. And that's actually, what's actually there is a bunch more chests. So each room is actually rather stacked full of chests. So by the end, you should usually find yourself with a decent amount of gear, provided you've not been, running screaming through the corridors, which we've all been there now and then, but try not to panic, keep your head about you, but as you can see, the route we took, we went through here, bumped into the shaman over this way, got through here, went through the, I think it was around, I think that there, these little dotted lines, is the staircase down to the troll, I think it was around here. And we kind of scooted around and ended up, in fact, no, it's not. Those were the traps and skeletons we were avoiding with those little prison cells around here, wasn't it? And we scooted into here, bumped into the pot of spiders, nearly died, ran down the corridor, fought the goblins here, and then we extracted just next to it, right? So, a bit of a rundown. You can find a good guide online just by searching like Goblin Caves map, Dark and Dark. There's actually some guides where it'll show you the map and then go through each one of these main locations with you. And there'll be a picture so you can kind of roughly tell where you are at all times. So, but just a rundown, you saw this area. It's like a couple of little caverns attached to each other with an underground bit. Chests around the edges of the rooms, and goblins and death beetles guarding, right? In here, the central bit, this is Goblin Central. There's loads of goblins, including a goblin shaman in the middle that we defeated. Don't be too scared about the goblin shamans. They're not that tough. They will do a nasty number to your health if they hit you, but playing Cleric and with all your buffs on and your healing, it's not that big of a deal. They go down in about 3 hits with your buffs on. It's not too bad. There's a little staircase down. This whole area has like an underground section with even more chests. Lots of loot to be had. Lots of goblins though, just be careful. So, and just when reading the map in general, remember the darker areas like this here and this there, and these tunnels here, these are underground. If there's area running beneath one of these above ground bits, you can see like a dotted outline saying, hey, there's something down here underneath, yeah? Like, hey, these underground corridors here continue and go along this way, as you can see. So, and that's kind of it. So, basically, in this area, I believe it's mostly you go in and it's like a big watery pool. There's skeletons and death beetles in there, and there's a bit that goes along the top as well. On the eastern bit here, it's lots of above ground. Well, I say above ground, I mean ground floor and basement level tunnels. Yeah, you can see they kind of go down for a bit, then there's staircases up, and then they go around. I can tell you from my experience at least, so these do connect together. That's where you go up into these higher level ones. Well, high level, the floor above ones. There's a goblin shaman, I think around here, with 2 goblin archers and then 2 goblin shieldmen there. You can pull the shieldmen, then you can pull the archers, then you can pull the shaman. Each at a time, so you can pull the two shield users, then the 2 archers, then the shaman. Don't just stand in front of the archers, back around the corner and they'll just kind of mindlessly follow, and then you can kind of shorten your distance to stab them. Archers, by the way, just dance around them in a circle and keep swinging. That's generally how to avoid them. Well, avoid being hit by them, but occasionally their animations will just kind of go, oh, I'm meant to be facing you, aren't I? And I don't appear to be, and they'll just kind of 180 around and shoot you. Occasionally happens with the swordsman and that as well. The goblin swordsman, they'll suddenly spin a bit on the spot quite quickly, and that's why it's always better to bait the swing and then attack, because you know they're not going to move then. And we've been over the shaman. There's always a decently sized chest in there, and there's a shrine of health at the back. This little stairwell here, if this is in the end zone, then you're in luck. This is a one-use get out of the dungeon for free card. There's a metal portcullis that blocks it. I think it's the second to last circle this opens up, and you can just leave. It's not a portal, but it acts like a portal, yeah? If someone's already used it, it'll be blocked up with rocks, yeah? The portcullis will be up, but rocks will have fallen down, causing a cave-in, and it can't be used again. If that's not the case, you can get out using it. But the circle kind of has to land there, or you have to... I mean, and you can do it. If, say, maybe the circle's closing down here, and you're thinking, oh god, I need out, you're risking it, hoping that no one's taking it, or that there's no one waiting to take it there. Run your backside round, get over there, out heal the circle, and leave. Yeah. Remember the circle doesn't do much, and you can self heal, so it's not as big of a deal as you would think. Continuing our tour down here, there's a little pool of water, and then it's a big open cavern. It's full of spiders and skull bats. No problem if you've got the perseverance trait, you will smash through this. We've been over here, it's just goblins guarding a chest here, and goblins guarding a chest here. 2 swordsmen, 2 archers, and I think, was it 2 archers, 2 swordsmen? I think, yeah, there were a shaman, wasn't there as well? Anyway, that's what's there. Underground little corridors, connecting them up here. And this one that loops around and goes under into this underground here. And over into this area. This area, by the way, big open cavern with like a ridge running along the back line that also connects into the centre. Don't be caught out in here, right? I'll just put this out there. This is a very tempting room to stay in, because there's a lot of chests and loot at the bottom, but there's a lot of goblins. You'll often find yourself stood there fighting goblins, trying to kill trying to kill them and get the loot. Be wary. that the goblins, they're not dangerous. No, not the goblins in the game, especially when you've got the perks that you've got, aren't that dangerous, right? Especially when you know how to fight them. But, if an archer goes along this ridge, a ranger or a wizard, and starts firing down on you, or just a fighter who's picked up a bow, you're going to die. Yeah? And they'll hear you a mile off because you're fighting down there. And you have to go up these stairs all the way around, go across a narrow single file bridge to get to them. It is very easy to be caught out here. And also, you're trying to get all this loot. The circle rarely closes here. It's very easy to get trapped in this room. Yeah, you get over-invested, you stay there too long and you get caught out. Very easily done, right? And lastly, we've got this room over here, and it's a series of interconnecting platforms, right? All of which, there's a ground floor, a mid floor, and then like up in the rafters, right? So up on the top level, you've got like this area here. So you can go, there's a platform here, it connects down to this bit, and you can run up. There'll be 2 goblin swordsmen. There's always loot in there. Couple chests. There's a weapon on the table. Usually decent rarity, not guaranteed. There's a shelf full of potions. And there's these little golden vases and that. You can grab it all. There's always a lot of loot in there. We're talking like 30 to 50 gold worth, depending. Right? Just stashed away. If there's going to be a blue or a purple drop that you don't have to kill a boss for, this is where it will be. Across the room directly. So again, this is like on the top floor. It goes around here, connects into this central area. This is kind of like a spiral staircase that goes pretty much around the whole area. You can, and there's a spawn point just there as well. But there's skull bats there. Up on this bit just here, there is a goblin swordsman and archer defending a chest. And if you go all the way down the spiral staircase, and then there's like a little slope here, and there's little room in the corner here, there'll be a goblin shaman with 2 swordsman warriors. There's also swordsmen patrolling the floor, which you might come across. Good tactic. There's a lot of spike traps there. Throw torches, light the area up. Run them through the spike traps. They'll kill themselves. You don't even have to hit them or anything. Just walk around. Put your weapon away, you press X to put your weapon away, sheath it. Just walk, and then as you get past a trap, just sidestep, because they'll just path in a straight line to you and go straight into the trap. You can do that, kill them all, go for the shaman, cast your buffs, get him, and again, loads of loot in the little room at the bottom there. Other bit of loot in the central area, if you end up in the lower floors, as you can see it does have the lower floor, there's a skeleton champion and a bunch of skeletons in like a pool. Skeleton champion, very tough to deal with, but if you know how to beat them, you've had practice and you're confident, I'm certainly not, but if you are, and maybe you've brought that, bonus damage versus undead or something, by all means go down there and try your luck. Do remember though, as far as I remember, I think that spells wise, Holy Light will actually be blocked by shields, if I remember correctly as well. So keep that in mind if you're thinking, I can quickly kill him with Holy Light. You might not be able to. And one final note, just as a random thing, before we close it up on the all-encompassing Cleric solo guide. If you do team up with someone, you're using voice comms, you talk to people in the dungeon, I have seen that you can heal other players, though it is very much dependent on the spell. Holy Light targets allies. I've not tried Sanctuary, but I think the basic heal can heal enemies if you cast it on them, right? Keep that in mind. And also keep in mind, when you do cast your buffs, make sure you're not targeting anything. You can buff enemies. You can do that on accident, don't. So that is everything you need to know as a cleric while you're playing Dark and Darker. I keep wanting to call it Darkest Dungeon, I really do. Because it's the same syllables, both begin with the letter D and that. I'm constantly having to double guess stuff. But yes, while playing Dark and Darker, remember, as a cleric, all the tips you need are right there. You know everything you need to know now. And using those tips, even with starter set stuff, you should easily be able to just quite handily defeat the solo dungeon. At first, it might be a bit rough, but as soon as you hit 5 and unlock that second perk slot, and you can take Protection from Evil and Perseverance, you're basically set. You'll probably not need much more than that. Yeah, you've got all the tools at your disposal there to make some easy basic gear runs. All the best. Thank you very much for watching. I'm considering doing, and I probably will be doing, my thoughts on the 4th alpha test and what I would like to see as features in future tests and the eventual release. So stay tuned if you're wanting to watch that. That should be coming soon. But for now, thank you very much for watching and happy hunting in the dungeon.